vulnerable. But psychological insomnia isn't the only thing India's airstrikes gave to Pakistan. It also forced Pakistan to spend billions of dollars in reassessing its air defense capabilities, which had failed miserably on that day 5 years ago. It gave the then Imran Khan government a colossal amount of domestic pressure to deal with. It completely exposed Pakistan's much-touted intelligence agencies, which were caught clearly sleeping and are now forced to spend millions of dollars to stay more awake than they have ever done in the past. It exposed Pakistan to international scrutiny because the world's largest democracy had just taken matter into its own hands on this day 5 years ago and bombed a terrorist training camp. It forced Pakistan to continue squandering millions in taxpayer and public money to manage the narrative, employ advocacy and PR firms to try and paint India as an unprovoked aggressor. It triggered a huge feud within the Pakistan military about who was responsible for the absolute and utter failure of the Pakistan Air Force to see through India's masterful ruse in diverting attention away from the actual target by pretending to target something else, perhaps in the south. But what it did above all is destroy any sense of sobriety and predictability that Pakistan had taken for granted with India. Pakistan had lulled itself into a space of complacency, assured that India, with all its democratic burdens and international obligations, would never dream of unilateral military action on Pakistani soil. So while Pakistan coughed itself into a fit, trying to debunk the damage, the world knew the truth. Forever after, a precedent had been set when those bombs struck Balakot, viewer. A precedent which made retaliatory action by India an assured default thing if Pakistan ever conducted a large-scale terror attack again. That India had set the bar for itself and therefore couldn't go back on its own benchmark, its own example. Balakot has had a huge impact on India too, but in a vastly different way. Just 21 days ago, this month, on February the 5th, the Congress's leader in the Lok Sabha, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, for the nth time wondered why there was no proof of the damage inflicted by the Balakot airstrikes. It was largely lost in the din of Parliament, but it stands as an example of how Balakot lingers in the Indian political consciousness, which sees Balakot as something that sealed the opposition's fate in the 2019 election campaign. That Balakot continues to grate, that there still exists thinly veiled insinuations within the opposition ranks that the provocation for the Balakot airstrikes were a planned false flag by the Indian government are all indicators of the lasting and perhaps permanent effects of the decision that India took on this day 5 years ago, viewer. I'll end not with the politics, but by something that's very, very important. I'll end by taking the names of the 5 incredible Mirage 2000 pilots who were decorated for flying the mission to bomb Balakot. Wing Commander Pranav Raj, Squadron Leader Rahul Basoya, Squadron Leader Pankaj Bujade, Squadron Leader Shashank Singh, and Squadron Leader BKN Reddy. The maintenance crews, weapons technicians, radar specialists, and all others associated with the amazing mission that took place on this day 5 years ago. The nation salutes you, and the nation always remembers. And now we're very, very privileged to be joined on this day, on this anniversary of the Balakot mission, by Air Marshal Kosla. He was the Vice Chief of the Air Staff during that particular operation. He is someone who has spoken extensively about it, but we're very honored and privileged, Air Marshal Kosla, to have you with us live today to take some of our questions. Remember, viewer, I'd like to remind you that this mission continues to be a classified mission. Most aspects of it remain under the cover of secrecy. There are reasons for it, obviously, because this is a mission that had a strategic effect. Air Marshal Kosla, welcome, sir. Thank you once again for your time. 5 years later, your opening thoughts on how you look back on that particular day, sir. You were the Vice Chief of the Air Staff, very much in the saddle, very much part of the entire process that led up to this historic operation. Your reminiscences of that particular night, that particular day, sir.
Thank you, Shiv. You almost covered every aspect, the strategic aspect of Balakot. Yeah, I think it was a farewell gift to me. I retired in April, and just before that, these operations took place, and I had the privilege of from Air Headquarters coordinating the activity. And in lighter way, in old age, I might forget my own name, but those 14 days I'll never forget in my life. I mean, there were so many emotions involved in those days, and but the whole project, whole event was planned very well, and you took names of 5 pilots who dropped the weapons, but actually the entire Indian Air Force worked towards it, and to make it success, and it was a very very exhilarating experience as such, and it felt nice that the country as well as the uh, decision makers had put their faith into the Indian Air Force, and Indian Air Force did deliver and did deliver it in style.
What was it like, sir? The military planners, all the aspects that go into a mission of this kind are very, very complicated. It happened I've written about, like we've reported about, under a shroud of great, great secrecy. But what kind of pressure was there, on you, on those in Delhi at that time to make sure that all these moving parts resulted in a successful mission? Just give us a sense of the mood, sir.
Yeah. So first of all, everyone, it was need to know basis operation where it was kept totally under, only need to know basis. People knew about the whole
Yes.
that it is taking place, and that is what yielded the tactical surprise on the enemy. And we carried on the other activities as usual, and it was as I said, it was a very very exhilarating experience. Everyone was charged up for this opportunity, and there's a lot of coordination. Actually, there are two segments for these plans. One is the command level, and one is the air headquarter level. So air headquarter level, the task is to coordinate. I mean, take the decisions from the decision makers and pass it on to the uh, operating command, as well as coordinate with all the agencies for operation. There's a coordination involved with a whole lot of agencies, sister services, int agencies, aviation. I mean, the name of it. But we did it without disclosing the actual operations. And the second part is the tactical part where the command gets into the action with their stations
Yes.
and plans out the number of aircraft, number of weapons, target to weapon matching, and package and operating bases. I mean, the whole lot of things are there. So there are two segments which take place, but the whole experience was, I mean, that's what we are trained for, that's what we are waiting for, and it was a nice way of conducting the operation.
While, when the mission had begun, some movies have been made about scenarios of this kind, the kind of tension that would exist in war rooms and things like that, the dramatic effect of all of that. But, people in the Air Force, people in the military are made of a different kind of metal. You have to keep very, very calm. Everything, is dictated by the kind of training that you have. When the aircraft were in the air, I know I'm asking a specific question, but I still want to try and capture this for our viewers because it's very valuable to them. When the aircraft were in the air, when it's a kind of no turning back, all systems go, they will only come back once they've dropped their weapons. What was that like, sir? How was everything monitored?
Yeah, so Air Force is a very, very networked service, and the networking is very advanced. And sitting in any of the place, you can see the air activity all around the airspace in India as well as neighboring airspace. So that monitoring can be done in the ops room, and can be done anywhere sitting where the uh, system is available, the IACCS system. So it was a network this thing, and it can be monitored. That is number one. The second aspect which you brought out is very correct. That the emotions which go through, although it is
Yeah.
not shown in the mind, it goes through. A whole lot of them. Actually, you're wondering, have we missed out on anything? Have the all contingencies been looked into and covered, and uh, the plans have been made? Will it go through properly? Will there any other chance of failure? Will something happen? What next? So all those emotions, they keep going this thing. And but when the operations are going on, then you are looking at it and seeing that everything is going as per plan, and that gives
Yes.
you assurance.
As part of the planning process, just to try and understand it, how would the pilots have been selected for this mission? Was there some kind of a criteria for this, or any of the pilots would have been capable of, flying a mission of this kind?
No, once you are declared fully operational, you're fully operational. There's no difference between pilot A and pilot B. Both are fully operational. They can go in for the mission. And that is a prerogative of the commanding officer. The command and air headquarters don't get involved in all that. And full freedom is given to the commanding officer to choose his team and start working on it. And any pilot can be selected who is declared fully operational for it. And also taken into consideration is the currency. I mean, if a pilot has gone on a leave for 1 or 2 months and then come back, join back, obviously he will take time to come back to this thing. So that is prerogative of the CEO to decide his team and for the task which has been given.
One final question, sir, and very briefly, the strategic effects of Balakot. We've seen the claim versus counterclaim war, कि कितना damage हुआ, कितने आतंकवादी मर गए उसमें. The Air Force has stayed very professionally above all of this, because the Air Force knows, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, that the effect was, immediately there was a tactical effect, but the strategic effect is more important. The insomnia of Pakistan, the fact that no major terror attack has happened since, and that a benchmark has been set as far as retaliatory action is concerned.
Yeah, very true. Shiv, the strategic effects you covered very well. You summed it up very well, and that is what has happened. And actually, what happens is any such operation or any war, even in now current wars, if you see, the media war takes over, and the narrative is brought in. So in that narrative, now it is not only the Air Force; it is the whole of government approach for the narrative, and all the agencies are involved in creating the narrative. And narrative has to be one that gives you legitimacy, that gives you a lot of this thing. As far as Air Force is concerned, it did its job, and whatever information was required, it provided, and thereafter. Whatever the narrative came out, and everyone knows, actually the whole world knows. And the duplicity of Pakistan also, everyone, the lies which came out one after the other. तो कहते हैं ना, नकल के लिए भी अकल चाहिए होती है. They, in a day, I don't know how many times they made a statement and they later retracted it. And
absolutely.
It proved counterproductive to their narrative and cause. So everyone knows what actually happened and how it affected tactically and strategically. And I think Air Force did a very professional job. We did make mistakes on the second day also, but that is part of the war. And we learned lessons from it and moved on and corrected them and made amendments.
Very, very true. Permanent psychological and strategic insomnia. That was the effect of Balakot, the airstrike that took place on this day 5 years ago. Air Marshal Kosla, I thank you, and the country thanks all of the pilots, and thanks you personally also for your service. You were very much part of the team that made this historic military operation a reality. So our salutes to you, and once again thank you very much for your time and for taking our questions on this landmark 5th anniversary of the Balakot airstrikes. Thank you, sir.
प्लान
म्यूचुअल फंड स्कीम्स में खुद इन्वेस्ट करने का एक ऑप्शन है.
म्यूचुअल फंड्स खुद ही
सी जैसे मैंने फिट रहने के लिए ट्रेनर रखा है.
तो दिखता ही है भाई.
पर तू तो सेल्फ मेड है भाई.
वेल देख, मुझे फिटनेस की नॉलेज है तो आई मेड माय ओन ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम.
और तेरे ट्रेनर के पैसे भी बच गए.
हाँ,
सेम विद डायरेक्ट प्लान. यहाँ मेरे कमीशन के पैसे बच गए.
सही है.
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है. योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें.